Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Versus. This is where I take two Rainbow Six Siege operators and put them up against each other and see which one is a bit better in my opinion. Again, this is only a mere recommendation and it is not an end-all be-all. This is how you have to buy these operators. You can buy any operator at any point so long as you have the renown or the rainbow credits if you really want to get them. Today we're going to be looking at the only two attacking operators that can bust through reinforced walls, that being Thermite and Hibana. Let's get into the video. So, Thermite and Hibana, being able to bust through reinforced walls is a very good, really all-around amazing tactic. Because more often than not, when a wall is reinforced, it's nearly impossible to get through. I say nearly because so long as you have either of these operators on board with you, they can easily bust through it. But they do it in various ways. So let's get into the specifics of them, starting out with their loadouts, and starting out with Hibana. Hibana is a 1-armor, 3-speed operator. This means that she is super lightning fast, but she cannot take a lot of bullets or damage, and while she is really fast, she can't take a lot of bullets, unlike some of her other operators. For her guns, you have the Supernova. This is a pump-action shotgun. The interesting thing about pump actions is that they have a bit more damage on the environment. I would not recommend the shotgun on the attacking team, however, because, again, a shotgun just doesn't seem to have any... while a shotgun does have its place in Rainbow Six Siege, I would more often than not put this as a defender weapon, more so than an attacker weapon. But if you really want to use it, go ahead. For her secondary assault rifle weapon, she has her Type 89. This is a very awesome, all-around nice assault rifle. Being able to have underbarrel grip attachments, barrels attachments, laser sight, as well as an optic. This can also include an ACOG scope. For her secondary gun, since she is part of the, I believe, Japanese CTU, she also has the P229 and the Bearing 9 shot and the Bearing 9. While you might think that with pairing the assault rifle with the P229 pistol is pretty good, her Bearing 9 is nothing to sneeze at either. Being the same two weapons that you actually get with Echo, I would put emphasis more on the Bearing 9 in this case, as it does have a little bit more firepower. But again, for some reason, the P229 definitely is nothing to sneeze at. For her secondary deployable gadgets, other than her primary one, she has either Claymore or stun grenades. Claymore or stun grenades. Again, stun grenades function similarly, but the Claymores I'm going to get into in a bit. Next, let's move on to Thermite. Thermite is a 2-speed, 2-armor operator. He is a mid-speed operator. He is not as fast as Hibana, but he can take a bit more damage than her. For his guns, you have the M1014. This is a shotgun that is a semi-automatic shotgun. This is the shotgun found throughout most of his CTU. I would not recommend this shotgun again because, yes, it is a good shotgun for defending. I would personally say that this semi-auto shotgun is better suited for someone on the defending team. Again, not to say that it's not a bad idea to run a shotgun, but it's more often than not, you might want to run his other gun, which is the SIG 556 assault rifle. This assault rifle is very good damage all around and can definitely save your bacon in a pinch. It has a underbarrel grip, of course. It also can have a laser sight, barrel attachments, and an optic as well. Yes, this does also include an optic, being like any optic, including a ACOG sight. For his guns, you have the M45 or the 5.7. This is more or less a sort of similar to the revolver P9 debate I had earlier in the series, in that one has good damage, and one has pretty good damage but a low amount of ammo, while one has massive ammo but a little bit low damage. Again, this is more of a pick your poison type thing, and this seems to be a bit more even in some cases because I've seen them being run equally as good. Again, for his side of the spectrum, he also has Claymores or, I believe, smokes or stuns. I can't remember which one. I believe it's smokes, more often than not. Anyway, let's get on to their main ability, starting out with Hibana again. Hibana has her sort of X-Kairos launcher. I can't believe I remember that name. Her X-Kairos launcher is basically a launcher that shoots out these little sort of types of little I don't really know how to describe them. These circular devices that stick to the wall. These devices, her ex-Kairos, are basically mini thermite charges. She can launch out 6 of them at once. This is being in 2 rows of 3. This and when placed on reinforced walls, they cannot be removed. These are launched from her thing, and again, she does it more or less from a distance. Her biggest counters in this case are definitely going to be Bandit and Mute. Mute because he can jam up her remote-controlled ex-Kairos pellets, and even Bandit as he will destroy most of her ex-Kairos pellets, including basically all of them. Mute, however, reacts... it is interesting to note that Mute is not... While Mute is a good counter, it's also interesting to note that each of her ex-Kairos pellets actually detonate individually, meaning that if some of them are jammed, the rest of them will, if only half of them are jammed, the rest of them will actually fire off and create holes in walls. This again is interesting to note, as it's very cool to see when you launch your ex-Kairos pellets on the outskirts of a Mute jammer, and some of them are able to go off. The best example that I have of this is that I've only happened to have it to me once. Just remember, once these ex-Kairos pellets are on the walls, you cannot remove them. Next, let's move on to Thermite. Thermite has his Thermite charges. These are basically breaching charges that you can use on any surface to break through stuff. But their main draw is that these are the only type of charges that can actually bust through reinforced walls. He only gets 2 of them, but he can remove them. So they're not immediately permanently stuck to the wall if you can't detonate it or whatever. Again, his biggest counters are going to be Mute and Bandit. Bandit because, again, he can destroy it, and Mute because, well, he can jam it because it's remote detonated. And again, it is interesting to note that so long as the remote control doesn't necessarily reach to the point of where it's actually jamming the Thermite charge, it will still detonate. I did have this happen to me once with a very professional team. Seriously, it's pretty awesome. Anyway, let's move on. With Thermite, again, there is something I need to... With these 2 operators, there is one other thing I need to bring up in their counters, which is Bandit, being that he can actually do something called Bandit Tricking. Bandit Tricking is basically where you take the battery, and just as they're about to detonate, you put the battery on the thing, and then it destroys everything. It destroys all of the stuff on the wall, either the hibana charges or even the actual Thermite charge. For the Thermite charge, it is a little bit harder. For the ex-Kairos pellets, I'm not sure if it's going to be too difficult. Moving on. Since these are actual explosions, they will cause damage, and if you are close enough and have low enough health, you will actually die to them. Again, this is so long as you are up against the wall, but again, so long as you can hear the thing and see it visually, you will not be able to die to one of these. It'll only be there when you're really not paying attention. Okay, with that being said, let's move on quickly to their claymores. Claymores are basically a directional explosive device. The claymores basically kind of act similar to Kapkan traps in certain ways. But there are a few interesting quirks that you need to know about them. The claymores can be placed practically anywhere, so long as you hold it in front of your face, you can be able to place it down, and it will launch out 3 individual lasers. If any of these lasers are tripped, they will actually detonate in that specific direction, meaning that if you are directly behind even if you are directly behind the claymore, you will not die to it, as it is a directional explosion, meaning that it will explode out, similar to how Blitz's flash is a directional flash being pointed in the direction that he is facing. These lasers can be intercepted by dead bodies or something, by bodies of dead players, and a few other things like the geometry of stuff. The lasers are short enough. The height of the lasers is actually short enough to be projected through a drone hole. So if you see lasers coming out through a drone hole, don't step over there, because you will actually die to it. The explosion just somehow comes through the drone hole and takes out your kneecaps. So be advised of that. Also, if you're a hacker, use that to your advantage. So with that being said, and with all that basically out of the way, who is better in this situation, Thermite or Hibana? This is actually, again, a kind of close match, and I did consider everything. The biggest drawback I can see to Hibana is the price. The biggest drawback, of course, is her price because she is a DLC operator, meaning that she is only available for 25,000 renown. Let me say that again. 25,000 renown. That is a lot. That is actually 10 times more than the last operator that you unlock in the standard CTUs. But for this expensive price, you do get another operator that can actually technically mix up, and if you stop, you know, it's another operator that can bust through reinforced walls, so it might actually be really good. The only problem that's really upsetting about the only thing that is upsetting about this is that Hibana also is being a 3-speed one armor operator does have her drawbacks, as mentioned before. She cannot take a lot of damage, but again, sometimes the time to kill on this can be so quick that it's a blink and you'll miss it moment. But again, for Hibana, it just feels like she does a lot, and sometimes you can mess up, and especially when you mess up, because her Hibana charges need to be placed in certain manners that can actually, you know, make a hole or not just a sight line. Being that they're in a in a little area, you can't actually vault through the hole because it's not big enough. Two Hibana charges. That means 4 rows of 4, or like whatever the math is on that, 12, can place just right, can create a hole that can rival actually Sledge's kind of hole being able to be vaulted through. But again, it can be very difficult, and you need to get the spacing just right in order to actually get it, so you don't have that little bar, and therefore your entirety of that was pointless. But again, so long as you know where it is and learn her, you will be able to master her. The same can be said for Thermite. Placing his charges and knowing where to be at the right time can definitely be easier. But in my personal opinion, taking everything into account, I'm probably going to have to go with Therm on this one. I know. I love Hibana, and I have to admit this was extremely, extremely close. Another very close match, as both of these characters are really good. But it mainly came down to the price and the easy learning curve of Thermite versus Hibana. Hibana is more expensive, and she does take a little bit harder of a learning curve in order to really master her gadget. Whereas with Thermite, there really is no mastery of his gadget. There's more of just a mastery of where and when to place it, and what your counters are and how you can counter those counters so you can use your ability and help your team out. It's more of just, he has a very low learning curve, whereas Hibana has a little bit of a higher one to a certain degree, but again, you might not be able to see it to some degree. In my opinion, as I said before, my recommendation is get Thermite. And maybe later definitely get Hibana, because if you really want to switch it up, I would definitely recommend either of these characters. And again, this show is meant to not look down upon these characters, but more or less to judge the characters fairly and evenly, giving you all the information you need to know for future references and which one you should be looking out for, and, you know, helping out the new people. With that being said, what's your opinion? Who do you think? Do you think that Hibana is a little bit better than Thermite? Explain that in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and a peace off.
Watch out! The floor is level!